Before jumping into doing the turntable movie, I want to go over lighting the rock grubber right now. So I'm looking at the concept and I'm pretty happy with what we have so far. I really want to come up with a lighting scheme that works well and helps describe the character for renders and also for the turntable film. Doing a render is actually incredibly easy. ZBrush has the best preview render button right here, and you'll notice that throughout the demos I've been hitting that button, trying to see what the model looks like in render, because of course that's how I'm going to be presenting him. But what we can do is we can adjust quite a bit and control the renders a little bit more. As is, the render isn't bad, but there are a few things I'd like to change. Right off the bat, I'd like to get it a little darker, just the background around the head, and put a nice gradation back there. So I'm going to go into Document, and here's our document palette, and by holding down the back button, I can actually adjust my lighting by selecting any color on the plane here on the interface. And so I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to pick a darker value, and I'm going to go back in. And by sliding range, I can adjust the gradient. Now, what I like about this is that it's nice and dark around the head, but it's also getting lighter around the legs. So you can really see the legs in silhouette, and the head's nice and moody. I might go a little lighter with this. I'm just going to, again, click this, go to the back, and looks good. Okay, so that helps to really show off the design well. Gives it some nice contrast. Alright, so now that we have the background where we like it, we're going to start adjusting our lighting and playing around with the character. So right now I have him at a fairly low subdivision. It just makes things go a little quicker. And I'm going to test out my lighting a bit. To speed things up even more, I'm going to go into my BPR slider, my best preview render button, and I'm just going to take it down to 1, reducing the quality of the renders, but you can see I can get renders a lot faster now. And so when I really like my lighting, I'll bump that up to 3, and I'll start catching some renders. So first off, I'd like to get into my light palette, and I'm just going to add it. Let's get rid of all this. So here's my dominant light source, and this is the trick essentially. You want to make sure that your dominant light source is nice and dramatic, and you want it to be in the right direction because you want to create a dramatic image, but at the same time, because we're still in the design phase, you want to make sure that your lighting shows enough of your concept to get the idea across. So let's go through here, and let's just try some stuff out. I'm starting to like how these shadows are falling on the creature. I can see enough form. Looking at the design, he's feeling a little matte. I'm going to go into my material palette, and I'm going to increase the specularity of the character. Let's just double, almost triple it. That's going to show some more information. I really like that. We're going to go into the geometry palette, and I just want to divide it a little bit more. I want to see some details. I'm not going to take it all the way to 5, but yeah, I want to see how those highlights capture my detail. Alright, that's not bad. So I can continue to just play around, move my light source. Too many shadows. Seems like that's the sweet spot. Yeah, not bad. I can play around with adding a secondary light source. Let's turn that on. For some reason it's set to blue. So I might try to fill in some of these shadows. Now if I take my secondary light source and I click on it, I can create a rim light. So just by tapping it with my mouse, you'll notice that now it appears as if the light is coming in from behind, and this will enable me to create a rim light on my creature. So just in case things are falling into shadow and you want to illuminate them, just the outer edge, you can hit the rim light option. Let's dial up the intensity there. Ah, that shows off quite a bit of him. I really like that. So I'm pretty happy. I'm going to increase my geometry just to 5, and we're going to increase BPR up to 3, and we're going to capture some renders. So we're just going to go in, and I'm starting to think that this could lighten up a little bit. Let's go back to document, and I'm going to use this actually as my palette. That's nice. Hit BPR. That's cool. Alright, and I'm just going to hit document, export. I'm going to save it out as a JPEG to my desktop, and it automatically labels it Zbrush document. I'm just going to call this Zbrush document 1, and I'm going to hit save. And this is a great feature that Zbrush has now. It enables me to crop my JPEG, but I like everything that I'm seeing, so I'm just going to hit OK. And here he is on the desktop waiting for me. So from this stage, I can bring this render into Photoshop, and I can take it a lot further. Let's see how much detail. It's not bad. It's a little hazy in areas, but if you want it to be larger and get more resolution out of the image, we can go back into ZBrush and increase the size of the document. So we can go to Document, Double, hit Yes, and I'm going to redraw the model, hit Edit so that it's active, and to clear the old one, I'm just going to hit Command N, F to center. You'll notice it's moving a little slowly, a little bit slower, and we actually have a lot more canvas that is hidden. So I'm going to go to Zoom, and I'm going to pull out, and you can see there's a lot more to work with here. Let's zoom in. Try to get a cool angle on him. That's a great view. That describes a ton of form. Let's zoom back in. There we go. I'm going to hit BPR again. It's going to take a little bit more time because there's just so much more to render now. And we're going to export it again to the desktop. That's a pretty good render. So I'm going to go to Document again, Export, and I'm going to save it to the desktop, call this number 2, go to create a JPEG, hit Save, and I'm just going to hit OK for now. That didn't crop it. It's just too large to see the entire thing in the image plane. And there he is. You can see I've got a lot more detail now. Zoom out and see much more of the sculpt, and it's pretty tight. So now that I have that render, I want to get it ready for presentation, and there are a few things that we can do in ZBrush to make our life in Photoshop a lot easier. So I really like this angle on the creature, and I'm going to turn off the color of everything, and I'm going to create some mattes. So by going in and changing my material, I'm going to go to flat color right here, and I'm going to adjust the color, and let's do something a bit more severe. Let's just go with reds. And I'm creating masks. So as you can see, all of these forms are now just flat shapes. I'm going to turn off a few of my subtools, and I want to get some different silhouettes, some masks basically, for my creature. So I'm going to go into, again, BPR. We're going to hit BPR. And I want to mask just for my rock grubber. Document, export. I'm going to call this 3. Save it out as a JPEG. Hit save. Hit OK. And that's going to help me in Photoshop to adjust my image very quickly. So let's bring this into Photoshop. Just going to click on Photoshop, and we're going to open both of these images. And by holding down Shift and working with the arrow key, I can drag this layer directly on top of the other image, and it will snap and line up exactly. Now, when doing a lot of options for clients, I'll often render out multiple material passes, snap them onto each other, above each other, in Photoshop, and composite the elements from each layer that I like. So for this, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to select my rock grubber, and I'm going to create a mask just by hitting the mask button. Working with the mask, I can now easily adjust my creature without affecting the environment, or vice versa. So I'm going to add a new layer, and by hitting Control and Alt, I'm going to copy just the mask to this new layer. Now when I paint within that layer, you will notice that I'm only painting the rock grubber. Control Z. If I am on the mask and I hit Control I, you'll notice that I've inverted the mask, and now I'm only painting the environment. And so this comes in handy, especially when presenting some fast options. Like, I realized when working on this that there's not a lot of separation in form between the rock grubber and the rock itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of atmosphere back here to help separate those forms a bit. I can also just lower the opacity. I also have a few brushes just for smoke and fog. There we go. So I can just very quickly push this back. So we'll be going into a little bit more Photoshop compositing later on, but I just wanted to cover what you can do very quickly using masks, creating masks in ZBrush.